See, that's what I want to get on video. Like all these stories, like I don't know if I've seen one like this where you're just like shooting the breeze.
We could be talking for a while.
Yeah, I mean, just whatever. Here we are. Yeah, right. Here we are. So.
Your phone battery. I'm going to be doing my next episode of Commodore History is going to be about the Amiga, and I've been putting it off for a long time because it's well, it's going to be hard because the Amiga is such a. I really just wanted to make one episode that's maybe 20 or 30 minutes long, talking about the history of the Amiga, and then of course kind of leading into the demise of Commodore. But truth is, most of my hardcore knowledge of Commodore ends with the 8-bit era. I did have an Amiga for like 6 months back in like 1989 or something like that. It was an Amiga 500. So I used it for a little bit of time back in the day, but then ended up upgrading to an IBM PC compatible clone. And so I just kind of left that behind, and I never did fully understand all the ins and outs of the Amiga like I did the 8-bit series.
Right.
So, but I've got some people that have volunteered to help me with that because, I mean, I'm going to need help with, up here is where I don't have the knowledge. And, you know, people expect when I put these videos out that there's going to be a lot of like everything from the culture behind them and the games that people played and what was popular, what was not, that kind of stuff. And so I've got to get.
I used to come up here. Remember when I'm sure we probably passed each other and never knew it. Did you used to go to the swap downtown?
Yeah.
That opened at like 3 a.m.?
Oh yeah.
I've been to that more times than I remember because I went to school at Louisiana Tech. And then I lived in Shreveport, so it wasn't too far to just be like, hey, road trip. You know, when you're 20, I'm like, hey, road trip, we're going to jump in the car and we're going to go down and we're going to shop. And then about noon, we will roll out and drive back.
Yeah, I used to go to that almost religiously back in the 90s. Yep. And it got to a point where it became very commercialized. And then I kind of lost interest in it.
I was there from 89 to 95. It was kind of a mix of what you say. Like it was $20 for a spot, and you could bring your own stuff. They also had people that were serious.
Sure, yeah.
Business.
And when I was going out there, I mean, it was a mix, but it just seems like over time the mix became more and more the commercialized stuff, and less the mom and pop selling. You know, stuff they from their basement or whatever.
Which some was good and bad because sometimes it was mom and pop selling stuff they knew was junk.
And but the difference is I never went out there to buy the new stuff. I was always looking. For example, back in the late 90s, I had an obsession with Sun equipment, Sun Spark stations and stuff like that. And that was the only place you could get them. Like, you could buy them new and, you know, pay like what a car costs. But, you know, I could get the 32-bit Spark machines. They show up out there all the time. They were coming off lease from companies or whatever, and some guy would come out there with a box truck and he'd unload just a big old pile of those. And I must have had a huge collection here of Sun Spark stations, and that's where I got them all. And I also bought Commodore stuff out there. I bought, you know, used monitors and keyboards and hard drives and all kinds of stuff like that. I was, you know, I think if I wanted like a brand new motherboard or something like that, I just might have gone to Fry's or something like that.
I would buy both because sometimes it'd be like, let's say you're at the end of the day and you're like, I really wanted to get that 4 megs of RAM. You're like, well, would you take this much? And then, you know, you get a few dollars off on it. Yeah, I had a Sun 360 that I think I bought from somebody at Tech. Had the black and white monitor. But you know what I used to have that I sold that I wish I hadn't? I had a Nix Cube for a while with the black and white monitor, still black and white monitor, but why did I sell that? That's one of those with hindsight, right? Like,
well, you know, I have a similar story. I had an Apple Lisa that I had bought from somebody back around 92, and I paid like $50 for it or something like that.
Nothing.
And I had it for a year or two, and I never, well, I can't remember. I know for a while I couldn't even find the boot software for it. I think I did eventually find it from somebody.
Was it Twiggy Drives or was
No, it was 3.5.
3.5.
And I think I eventually got it booting, but then I kind of discovered that there really wasn't a lot I could do with it, and it was huge. It took up a lot of space in my room. I was still living with my parents at the time. It took up a lot of space in my room, and so I finally decided to get rid of it. So a friend of mine was renting a booth out there for Saturday, and I'm like, hey, I'll bring this Apple Lisa out there and we'll put it up. Maybe somebody will buy it. And it sat out there the whole duration of the event, and I think I put $50 on it, and nobody would buy it. And as we were getting packed up and ready to leave, some guy came over and offered me $5 for it, and I'm like, take it.
Get it out of here. Yeah.
And now, of course, it's worth $4,000 or $5,000 because it was functioning and everything.
Well, at least it's able. It's neat to be able to say, "Hey, I own that. I own that. I own. I had it." At least, and my kids don't appreciate it. I don't know about yours, but maybe one day they'd be like, "Oh, Dad, maybe you were pretty cool." It's kind of like anything else, Floppy's the standard. Now it's hard drives. And you're like, floppy? Or 20 meg hard drive? Like, well, you're lucky you have a hard drive. So, nobody uses floppies anymore, but then they complain about the 20 meg hard drive. I'm like, when I got a 20 meg hard drive, my first one, I was like, huge. Whoa, what am I going to do with all this?
That's right.
I can copy all 6 floppies of this game there, and I still got over half of it left. ST225.
That sounds about right. Yeah. That was my first hard drive.
Yeah.
And, it was 20 megs. In fact...
Unless you had the RLL card.
No, mine was the...
MFM?
Yeah, in fact, funny story about that. My friend's dad used to bring home stuff from these junk auctions that he used to repair stuff with. He was kind of like a repairman. He didn't repair computers. It was mostly like TVs and stuff. But he brought home some old like CPM computer or something like that. And it had like 6 big 10 megabyte. And they were like the full height.
Yeah. Was
size.
it the kind with the plastic thing? Where you're like, no, not that old.
No, it looked just like an ST225, only it was twice as tall.
Yeah.
And it only held 10 megs. But it was MFM, and there were like 6 of those in that thing. And we pulled them out, and I found that, I wonder if this will work on my PC.
Sure.
And I put it in there, and I was able to format it. So I had 2 hard drives. So I had 30 megs total. And I was like, it was the coolest thing ever. Right? 30 megs.
You had to format it in the BIOS or low level it, I think.
Yeah, you actually had to go into debug.
Yeah.
And type some stuff.
Right.
And I forgot exactly what it was.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm going to remember that.
But yeah, I do remember you had to go into debug and type some stuff to set up the partition table or something like that. And then, because I don't think there was an FDisk program back then.
And you could enter that through debug and then low level it, maybe. And then I think it was a straight format. I was going to piggyback on your story. I had TI-99 when they went out of business, remember? And they just fire sailed them. And then I had the C64. I had the MPS 801, VIC modem, joystick. And for a while, I think I had a Sony Trinitron with that, like a TV. Ooh. Yeah, I know, right? And then I had the 1541, and I had the tape drive. Started with the tape drive. I still have a tape of Telengard. A good game. So that was like my first full system because I had everything. And then I went to the 520 ST with this. I could only afford the single-sided, the SF354. And then I went to PC. It was in Computer Shopper, and somebody had that ad. Hey, a 1 meg video card. You can do 1024 by 768. And it was a 286.
I haven't thought about Computer Shopper in ages.
Yeah.
I remember it's big old thick.
Exactly. And then it started going, and then it probably got down to about like that before it went. I did for my, I had a small ISP in 1995, and they had that local optional service where you could call another number within 35 miles or whatever, and they considered it local. I was using a 56K modem to go from Ruston to Monroe, so I had somebody in the middle, and I had call forwarding on that phone. So when I called the one in the middle, it would call forward to my ISP in Monroe.
Actually,
link.
You're not going to believe this, but my brother and I used to run an ISP around the same time.
We had something in common.
In fact, it was run right out of this house right here.
Oh, really?
But at the time, this was my brother's house, and it was actually in this room. Yeah, we used to have like several phone boxes on the outside of the house and multiple cables because we had like 32 phone lines.
Oh, wow. What'd you run? Like, what software?
I don't think we had any particular software.
Oh, you just have a straight ISP. Okay, I ran
we had bought a 128K ISDN line, and then we had like about 30 56K modems. They were right behind you on a shelf up there on the wall, just lined up. They were all external modems. And
nice.
Well, 128K seems pretty slow by today's standards. I mean, in like 1995 or whatever, that was really fast. We actually ran that for about a year, and it was actually an enormous pain in the rear. And the customer service side of it was just impossible to deal with because, we were going to work. We both worked at AST at the time. We'd go do tech support there all day long, and then we would come home. And so, like, one of us was always here answering the phone. And we were walking people through setting up their PPP connection and troubleshooting their modem drivers and all this kind of stuff, just constantly. And we didn't really make any money at it. So eventually, this other ISP bought us out. We were happy that they did. Yeah. They were really big in the DFW area, and then they later got bought out by somebody else that was national.
I wish I'd gotten bought out. I left to go to officer training school, and my friend kind of ran it in the ground. I'm like, but you were the only game in town. You could have probably built that into something. You were it. Like, there was AOL was still by the hour, and I was charging $20 an hour for full access. The way I got around the customer support thing, I ran Galacticon, which kind of had its own front end and stuff.
We played with Galacticon. It's funny that you brought that up. We used that for a month or two, and then we got rid of it. Well, yeah, because a lot of people were still running Windows 3.1 at the time, and so we had to walk them through installing like WinSock and then some kind of PPP software. And it seemed simpler than trying to get them to install the Galacticon stuff.
Well, it was a nice kind of a segue, if you will, because I think more people were familiar with the BBS. So you could either just do that, and then the software would give you an internet connection because I could hand out floppies or whatever. So I would actually go to people's house and I'll install it for you.
That would have been easier and faster.
Yeah. Here's what I had. I had a satellite downlink, but they would feed you Usenet groups and shareware and things like that. And you just tossed it onto a server. And then I didn't tie up the bandwidth on my limited 33.6 or 40K or whatever I got. So. But I was noticing you got some room up there. So if I did send you one game.
The only reason there's room up there is because I told you I did this big purge a while back, and I took a lot of the games that I'd reviewed and I put them on my website and sold them, because they were stacked to the ceiling.
Oh,
and I was keeping this one because I really thought this one was really cool. Did a review on that.
I don't know if I've even heard of that one.
It's a brand new game. It came out for the Atari 7800.
Oh, so it's not.
Yeah, it's not vintage.
Okay.
Anyway, I kept that one, but I think all the rest of them I reviewed, I just sold them off because I'm like, it's not that I didn't like the games, just that I don't have time to play them, so might as well let somebody else play them, and I could use the space.
I noticed you've got 2 copies of Wings of Liberty here. Big fan of that. So, side story, speaking of not cool, but I got to see Spider-Man Far From Home before anybody else. Because they did a casting call for veterans who were actors. I took my son and his friend, and I was cool for about a week and a half after that. We had to sign NDAs, and you can't post on social media or nothing. You have to zip your mouth as a teenager. You can't tell anybody you saw it even.
I watched that movie. I was on a plane. Anyway, it was just funny to me because I was on a plane watching at least like the first 20 minutes of the movie seemed like it took place in a plane.
Right.
And I wasn't expecting that, but it was just funny because I'm sitting here on a plane and watching a movie about being on a plane.
Unless you want watching snakes on a plane or something like that, you start looking around a little bit. But the funny part is it seems like I've lost things over the years because I'm like, I knew I had more than these, and I just, how it is, you move around and you lose stuff. Yeah. But I don't have like Pele. I've got some Atari computer stuff. I've got a Atari 400, 800 Pac-Man still in the box. You know what I do have? I remember when KB Toys, they were closing out their Atari 2600 games for 99 cents. So I'm like, this will be worth something someday. So I just bought a stack of them. But the fun, maybe we should do a video of that, just lay out some stuff just to have people talk about things, in the comment section.
I mean, I know these are Atari games, but they're disc.
Oh, I love Mule. I used to play that all the time.